Hey everybody, this is a mini lesson focused on indirect characterization and really taking what we do with characterization to the next level. So almost like a characterization 2.0, if you will. What I would love for you to do is go to the mini lesson section of your writer's notebook. It should be the blue section way at the very bottom of your notebook. You can choose between the Cornell note, the blank, and the big ideas and my takeaways slide. It doesn't matter to me which. Duplicate that, and then I want you to take some notes on our little mini lesson for today. So what I want you to focus on, there are 5 different ways that authors really make characters compelling. And by compelling, what I mean is really interesting, something that we relate to, something that a character that you'd want to learn more about, a character that you would actually become potentially invested in. And so that's all happens through indirect characterization, because our minds love puzzles and strategy. And I've said this again before, and I'll say it again. Your readers will be lost and bored if you actually fill in every single detail for them. Your goal is to hint all around a bunch of details, but let your readers draw their own conclusions. So here are those 5 ways to make really compelling characters. The first one is that strong characters generally have 2 or more goals or motivations of different importance that they might confront separately or at the same time. So there's this quote from Kurt Vonnegut, and it says every character should want something, even if it's only a glass of water, right? So there's normally 2 motivations that are happening, right? There might be somebody really wants to win a soccer game, or maybe they want to compete and be the valedictorian for their high school, but in the process they're also trying to discover who they are, or they're trying to reconcile this conflict that they are having with a family member. Whatever, there's 2 motivations, and a lot of times they have to choose which one they're going to prioritize, and that makes a really compelling character. So before you dive into your own characters, it's really good to know, okay, what do I want their 2 goals or 2 motivations to be? A pro tip for that is that you typically would want one to be external or outside the character. If they're trying to survive in the wilderness, they're trying to resolve this conflict with another character, it's happening outside of them. And typically one of them is internal. And so they're trying to maybe bolster their own confidence, or try and, not lie as much, or maybe they're trying to, whatever. It's all happening inside. The next bullet point, or the next way that authors make characters compelling or believable, or compelling, is that they must be believable. And so for an example, we might expect a character who gets paid minimum wage to struggle to pay her bills. And if we see her driving an expensive car or eating at a really fancy restaurant, then the pieces don't really fit, right? So we would want the things that your characters do and say, how they act, how they feel, what they struggle with, to match who they are and what their circumstances are. It doesn't mean that you can't have characters that are out of this world, so to speak. So it doesn't mean that you couldn't have somebody who's kind of like a superhero or an alien, or it doesn't mean that you couldn't have animals that talk or whatever, right? But it's about making what they interact with believable. It's about creating a scene or a particular moment that really shows us, okay, this is possible in this story or in this kind of an environment. Another way that authors build really powerful characters is they carefully choose physical and environmental details to include that make some of your character's traits visible to the reader. Again, it's about hinting at these things. You don't want to directly tell your readers very much at all. So for example, a character who's disorganized might have wrinkled clothing, or might consistently arrive late to appointments, right? You want those physical or environmental details to showcase something else about your character, or be something that maybe they confront or have to deal with later. You also want to make sure to consider how the character will react in a variety of situations. And we know that with our Steele method of characterization, their effect on others was that E, and it's really important that you not only consider your character's effect on others, but how other people affect them. And so looking at their reactions, and I've got a whole series of questions here for you, and so you could pause and take a look at some of those. But they're really, really important to know about your character. And again, if you are in the process of crafting some of these characters, and you'll be doing that today as part of our lesson, you really want to take time to actually answer some of these. And even though they might not seem relevant at the moment, or they may not seem essential to your story, it's good to have more background and to have a more robust idea of what is happening with your character, so that if it comes time to make a decision about that character, or that character needs to make a decision in their own actions, or in whatever they're doing in your story, you sometimes can slide some of these other details in, and it contributes to making that character believable and contributes to how we understand your character. And then last but not least, you want to make sure to allow your characters to fail at something, either something big or something small, and then explore their reactions to that failure in building their character. You guys, perfection is not reality for us in everyday life as it is, and it should not be a reality that your characters experience either. If your characters come across as perfect, then they're usually pretty boring, because people can't relate to that, right? You're not going to have a character that makes the right decision every single time, that wears the perfect clothes, that has the happy ending, right? It doesn't mean that those things can't exist, but they need to be able to fail in some way, shape, or form, and that should be central to the conflict of your story, right? They shouldn't magically be able to solve it all at once. So our goal is now going to be to take what you've learned about direct and indirect characterization, everything that you've learned about dialogue, right? We've put all of that together. And when you are reading, I really want you to be on the hunt for great characterization every time, right? So it can be either things that we are going to be reading and studying in class, or it can be things that you are reading on your own. But I really want you to watch for those hints, those places where your mind is filling in the blanks. And then I want you to really work on, especially today, crafting great characters through some direct, right? It's okay to have a little bit of direct characterization, but tons and tons and tons of indirect characterization every time that we write, embedding these tiny little details that are going to make a big difference for your readers, and a big difference for the momentum you have and the interest that you have in your story.